Okay, let's call this meeting to order. I call the Fire District Board meeting of December 20th to order. Would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance.
To the flag
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
indivisible,
with
liberty and justice for all.
Ooh, that's right. Okay, Chris, could we have the roll call, please?
Yes, ma'am. Aldrich?
Here,
Oh, yeah.
Saugatuck Township, Saugatuck, State of Michigan, Allegan County.
Perfect. Beckman?
Here, Saugatuck Township, Allegan County, State of Michigan.
Fox?
I hear Livonia, Michigan, Wayne County, State of Michigan.
Verplank?
Here, Saugatuck City, Saugatuck, or Allegan County, State of Michigan.
Perfect. Thank you. And Pullen?
Here, Douglas, Allegan County and State of Michigan.
And Miller?
Here in the city of Douglas, Allegan County, State of Michigan.
Janik?
Here, Saugatuck Township, State of Michigan, Allegan County.
And Peter? He's
Okay.
muted, but he's in the city of Saugatuck because I can see his office. And then I think that's all, ma'am. And Phelps is absent with notice. So.
Yes, Scott Phelps is in the air as we speak. Okay. Could you please silence your cell phones and please don't text during the meeting? That's against the Open Meetings Act. Could we have an approval of the agenda? Are there any additions or deletions? Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda of December 20th, 2021.
I'll support.
I have a motion by Pullen and a second by Beckman to approve the agenda as it stands. Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, ma'am. Pullen?
Yes,
Beckman?
Yes,
Aldrich?
Yes,
Fox?
Yes,
Verplank?
Yes,
And Miller?
Yes,
Passes 6-0, ma'am.
thank you. Could we have approval of the minutes, please?
I'll make a motion. Go ahead.
okay, I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from the November 15th, 2021 meeting as presented.
I'll second that motion.
Motion by Fox and second by Pullen. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, ma'am. Fox?
Yes,
Pullen?
Yes,
Aldrich?
yes,
Beckman?
yes,
Verplank?
Yes,
And Miller?
yes,
Passes 6-0, Madam Chair.
thank you. Is there any public comment? Would you please limit your comment to 3 minutes? Use the raised hand button, and these are for agenda items only. Is there any public comment? Okay, moving on. Today we have a special guest speaker. Dan Veldhuizen will be giving us our audit review. He's from Siegfried Crandall. You're on.
Thanks, Jane. Everyone can hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes,
Terrific. Thank you very much for inviting me to your meeting, and thank you for the very short trip to Saugatuck. I just walked into it. Appreciate that. As I always do, I want to tell you that we really appreciate the long-term relationship that we've had with the fire department. We enjoy working with everyone we've worked with there. Chris did a nice job putting the financial statements in front of me. We can all see them together. That's nice. And you even numbered them better than we do sometimes. So appreciate that. Just a few things that I think you should know from your auditor. One of them is whether or not you have capable accounting staff. And I think, as you all know, Peter does a very nice job. We'll talk about that in more detail, but we rarely make any adjustments and he does a terrific job. So I think that's important that you know from your auditor. I do always like to talk about the auditor communications, and Chris has heard me before, so he knows exactly where to put this Adobe file. And that's what I like to start with. Actually, Chris, if you could go to page 12 of 58. I'll start with that letter instead of the one you have in front of you there.
Okay.
There you go. That's exactly what I was looking for. The independent auditor's report, that's what you hired us to do. There's several key concepts there, responsibilities. You'll see that there's a section called management's responsibility and another one called auditor's responsibility. We've talked about this in previous years, but those are important and relatively new because people misunderstood who had responsibility for the financial statements. Even though we prepare this document for you, it's ultimately the responsibility of your management. We say that in that section. And that includes the internal controls or checks and balances over the transactions that are recorded. It's our responsibility to express opinions on the financial statements. We've done that on the next page. Just roll that forward one page, Chris.
Sorry, it's not rolling. There we go.
There you go. At the top of that second page, we have given our opinions where we say that the financial statements are presented fairly in all material respects. So that's known as a clean opinion. I really hate to have to point this out, but the next paragraph talks about a correction of an error. I'm sure I've never had to report this to you, and we rarely ever do. It's one of the worst things an auditor can hear, a prior period adjustment. We actually had to correct our beginning balances because the software that we have and the people that input the numbers made an error in calculating depreciation on one of the fixed assets last year. If you look at note 10, it'll go into great detail, but by accident, it depreciated the entire asset instead of over the useful life of the asset. So it calculated depreciation incorrectly, and we caught that this year. So while Peter rarely makes mistakes, the auditors did this year. So we apologize for that. We talk about how well Peter does things really in the first letter that you had originally, Chris, back on page 6, I think it was.
So we need to go back to that, Dan.
Yeah, if you don't mind. Actually, that letter that's on our letterhead goes on for a few pages. And if you go down, just go down to the 3rd page of that letter, if you would, Chris. This letter describes several things, probably 7 or 8 things that we have to put in writing now. There you go, page 8 is best. Right there is perfect. So we put several things in writing, things like qualitative aspects of accounting principles, but I really wanted to direct your attention to the bottom of the 2nd page relates to communications regarding internal control, and the top of this 3rd page describes things like control deficiencies and material weaknesses. So we have identified what we call a material weakness, which sounds like something terrible, but the truth is 95% of our clients and probably 95% of the governments in Michigan have that, just because the expectation is that whoever is responsible for the accounting would hand this document to us perfectly. I just think that's an unfair expectation. The truth is we've added a couple of bullet points to show you the material adjustments that we made. And they relate primarily to the defined benefit pension liability and the related deferred outflows and inflows. I'm pretty sure Peter has no interest in working on those, and he's glad that we take care of them. But that's the one entry that we make before we prepare your financial statements. Many times, and you all represent governments where there might be other adjustments that are made. Sometimes I go through a list of a dozen of these adjustments. In this case, it only relates to the defined benefit plan. So that's actually terrific, and Peter should be complimented on that. You have a very capable accountant. Just a few brief comments on the financial statements. The best place to look at that is page 22, Chris. Perfect. So just want to point this out. This is the balance sheet for the fire district as of June 30. The primary question that I always receive is, what is our fund balance and what is it adequate? So if you look at fund balance, it's $1.8 million. There's a small amount that's called assigned. That actually relates to the training facility, a training center. So it's a relatively small amount. The rest is unassigned, and that's represents what's available to be spent for all other allowable uses. So if I look at that as a percentage of expenditures this year, which was about 1.6 million, it represents 63% of your current expenditures. I would often tell people that if you have a fund balance that represents 25 to 50% or 3 to 6 months worth, just like an individual, you're in really good shape. So you're at 63% above that 2 to 3 or 3 to 5 months. Certainly not excessive. So I think you're in a place that you want to be. As you all know, you paid off all debt during the previous fiscal year. I don't know if you're going to have any new debt during the next year, but there was no debt at June 30. So that's terrific too for a fire department. If you go to the next page, which would be page 23, there you go. That's an operating statement. It shows the activity for this year, total revenues of about 1.7 million, total expenditures of 1,590,000. You had some unusual things related to other financing sources with insurance proceeds and sales of assets. But after all that activity, fund balance went up 120,000. As all of you know, that's not necessarily a good or bad thing. It's always a nice thing to increase your fund balance, but maybe you will spend more in capital outlay next year to use fund balance. So for a government, it's not necessarily good or bad to increase that fund balance, but that is what happened this year. You had some federal grants to $110,000, which basically went to the firefighters in additional pay related to the COVID grants. And one final thing I just wanted to point out on, I didn't look to see what page this is. At page 37, Chris, of 58. I know the topic of the defined benefit plan is always of interest. So this page, which has far too many numbers on it, shows the details related to the defined benefit plan. The column to the left represents your most recent fiscal year. There you can see near the bottom of the page, the net pension liability is 125,316. And that represents funding of 79.26%. So if I look at that, there's a positive trend from 72% funding a couple years ago to 77 and now 79. MERS, who manages your plan, really likes you to be around 80%. So there's another place where you're right in line with where you want to be. Won't take you to the notes, but it's important to know that there were no budget violations. That's something it seems like I talk about in every presentation that I give. Probably 80 to 90% of governments have some violations because of things that happened during the year, but there were not any violations this year. So as usual, you have capable people, you have a very good financial situation, and all of you do a very nice job.
Thank you, Dan. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
Jane,
Yes.
I just want to thank Dan and his firm for all the scrutiny, everything that they do to help us become a better organizations, because certainly they have an influence on what we do. So thank you, Dan.
You're welcome, Greg. Not too many people thank me for scrutinizing them, so I appreciate it.
We welcome it. We're far from perfect.
Can
And
I,
we are too.
can I ask, in the summary, you okay?
Yeah.
In the summary, Dan, you were just going through, I'm keeping notes for my own summary. The last point, I wasn't fast enough in my writing. You said no violations, potentially being what sort? Violations of what?
Budget violations. That's a good question. There's a separate note that the state requires. Note number 2 always relates to accountability and potential budget violations, and that it would be up a ways, Chris.
Honestly, I don't need the specific. I was just
I got no. Yep.
what
There you
the,
Right there, perfect. Note 2, in most of the audits that I do, we have a laundry list of budget violations because you might go over budget by line item or activity. In your case, we make the statement that there were no reportable negative budget variances. So no line items even were over budget. That's terrific.
great, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thanks, Dan. We'll move on to accounts payable.
Thanks very much for your time. Have a
Thank you,
happy
David.
holidays.
You too.
Thank you. Same to you. Okay, accounts payable.
Okay, Pete. Could I have a motion to pay the accounts payable, please?
I don't know if we can do that because Scott's not here to make the motion.
Try, Dan, try really hard.
I'll make a motion, we approve the disbursements in the amount of $152,823.73. Did I give you the right number?
I
I'll
think
second.
I think Eric's supposed to second this.
Okay,
I'll second it.
All right, thank you. All right, I have a motion by Fox and a second by Beckman to pay the bills in the amount of 152,000. Come on, Chris.
Oh, sorry. It was 823 and 73 cents.
Yes, that. Is
Sorry.
there any discussion or any questions about the accounts payable? Hearing no discussions or questions, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, ma'am. Fox,
Yes,
Beckman,
Yes.
Aldrich,
Yes.
Verplank,
Yes.
Poland,
yes,
and Miller.
Yes.
Passes 6-0, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And moving on, Peter, can we have the financial report?
Okay. So property tax bills are in the mail. People are paying. You can see we've collected since the 1st of December, $73,000 towards the 3 entities allotment. So we got a long ways to go in collecting the revenue. And right now, I don't see any of the particular line items. Everything's in budget where we should be for this time of the year. The only thing I got to say about the audit, that $1 million, so it's like 63%, Dan said, of our expenditures. That should be like almost the floor because, we're 6 months into this budget and we've only collected 5% of the revenues to pay for this budget. So I think we're in great shape, but we don't want to fall much far, go backwards by half or anything like that. I mean, it's there for a reason. Basically, we've got to finance our whole operation for 6 months before we collect $1. So we're in great shape there. So I don't know if anybody has any particular line item questions there.
Peter, do we collect our whole budget in the winter taxes?
The winter taxes, all 3 entities levy on the winter tax bill that just went out December 1st.
Okay, thank you.
there a reason why our fiscal year doesn't coincide with the actual year so we don't have to front the money, so to speak?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, so our fiscal year starts, July 1st. It's probably when they created the authority back in the 70s. It's probably when they did it. And then I guess they probably have always levied the millage rates on the winter bill. Because years ago, probably 20 years ago, the townships if you lived in the township, there wasn't a summer bill in the townships until probably, I don't know, early 2000s when they started with the summer. The only people that had a summer bill were villages or cities. The townships didn't have it. It was only the winter bill. So that's probably why it's always stayed on the winter bill.
Okay, just curiosity. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Any other questions on the finances? Thank you, Peter. That was a fine job as usual. You're the best.
Thank you.
We appreciate all your hard work and we appreciate that clean audit report.
Thank you.
Somebody must know what they're doing. Okay, moving on to fire chief's comments.
Okay, thank you, Jane.
Mhm.
Chris, can you pull up this summary? What would the board like to know of interest? Up about almost 14% on calls. It's been a busy year. There's no doubt about it. So we definitely have spiked up. Everything else pretty much is typical in the summary. We had some really extended incidents on the highway. The first snow, we had one incident that was 7 hours and had shut down the lane while a semi was emptied. So certainly weather creates a lot of problems. The high wind storms, severe winds could take us out for 5 hours on power lines down and fires from the power lines down. And of course, the whole county was slammed with high winds. At one point, we had 3 calls going on at one time. And these are extended calls, well over an hour. So crew did a great job protecting our communities. And that really provides the best summary that I can share with you at this time. Next up, community risk reduction wise, I can give you the monthly report on what has transpired. Pretty self-explanatory. Short-term rental inspections. We don't know how much longer that's going to go on. I heard a rumor that rental ordinance has been passed or the rental law has been changed, but I don't know for sure. I haven't got confirmation on it. You can see short-term rental re-inspections. Plan review hours is always very laborious, time-consuming. And then business inspections are all shown before you. So we'll give you a summary in January of what we did for the year end. Next up, I want to share an important document with you. And you can see this is only until September. I think last month we reported 90 fire fatalities. Here's what the board might want to know. You take a look at the right-hand side of this document. So where are the fire fatalities? Males. What are the ages? 40 to 69 years old. What time of the day? Nighttime. What days of the week? Saturday, Sunday. Top 3 fire fatality causes. Smoking. How that can happen nowadays, I don't quite know. And then interesting, origin. Where are the fires occurring? Living room. It used to be the bedroom and the kitchen. Now it's the living room. So this is something we're going to share with you monthly. We won't go over it. It's something you can reflect on. If you know data, you can craft responses and figure out how can you help people. Another thing we're looking at as a fire inspector society is what about all the people that are disabled or handicapped or challenged that are in wheelchairs. What can we do to help them? So very proactive in this whole area. Just wanted to reach out and say, this is being tracked, and there it is. Next up, certifications in our relentless pursuit to become more educated and embrace education. I have 2 personnel that have their live fire instructor licenses, and that would be Chris Bernardi and Chris Mannels. With a live fire training facility, it's nice to have more than 2 instructors, and now we have 4. So congratulations, Chris and Chris.
Do you want to mention the other 2, Greg?
Yep, Mike Betts and myself.
But then the other 2. Thank you.
There's 4 of us all together, Chris Bernardi, Chris Mannels, Mike Betts, and myself.
Thank you.
Thank you. So National Fire Academy had a residential sprinkler plan review class. Chris Mannels was able to get to into that at the last minute. Spent a weekend going through not exactly a thrilling class, but congratulations, Chris, on your achievement on going through the class. Toys for Tots has been very successful. That was one of the ideas from one of your firefighters, Phil Dalton, completely his idea, approached me on it, and they have emptied that Toys for Tots container at least 6 times. So very successful program and something we're happy to participate in. And last on chief comments, I want to share with you.
We're
we were
losing you,
trying to-
Greg.
I'm sorry. What, Jane? Okay. I want to reach out to the board and let them know about the propane cabinet that Dunes View Quick Stop has donated to us. It's about $1,000 cabinet. And we had propane cylinders cabled up and locked outside the building. This is a very tidy, safe way of storing the cylinders. We were trying to find a used one. Chris approached Dunes View and they ordered a new one for us and donated it. So wanted you to know that.
Good.
And that's all I have, Jane.
Okay, thank you.
Steve,
Yes,
who do we thank at Dunesview? I mean, you know, I go in there from time to time. Is there?
Chris, the manager, Chris Zwilla. Chris Zwilla.
Thank you.
I think he's the owner now,
Really?
Probably.
Yeah. pretty sure.
Just a terrific supporter of the fire department on many levels. A great guy to work with. And it's very comforting to go there. You know, so next time you're there, thank him. He'll be getting a thank you letter from us. I think Chris is drafting that. The little things that save taxpayers a lot of money and improve this fire department, become more professional in many ways.
Okay, moving on to unfinished business, the subpoena lawsuit update. And the
I don't have any
indemnification.
update. I'm hoping Stacy or Cindy could get us up to date on the indemnification agreement status.
Well, we voted on the indemnification agreement, so it passed. Should be
Great.
done. That's right, Cindy, is that what?
That's what I remember as being
Okay.
correct.
Okay,
Right. Okay,
so we'll just wait for it from you guys so then we can get it signed on our end, correct?
yeah,
Okay,
I think so, yep.
thank you. Thank you.
Welcome.
It's great news.
All right, moving on to new business. Chris. We have fee schedule approvals. Greg, do you want to do this?
Yes, my request for a motion as described in the report, fee schedule approvals. I recommend you hold the plan review and inspection fee schedule. It's not just my recommendation, it's the plan review division, which is Chris Bernardi and Chris Mantles and myself. Those costs are aligning with industry trends. So we're good with that. The recommendation is you increase modestly the cost recovery fee schedule. Primarily, your wages have gone up due to 2 COLA increases. And more importantly, your cost to replace or repair apparatus has significantly increased. You'll see example in the report. I won't go over that. My recommendation is, as the report says, to increase the cost recovery fee schedule. And the motion is attached.
Okay, so this fee schedule here is the new one, correct?
The plan review inspection fee schedule is the same as it was last year, Taru.
Okay, we just have to approve it again. Okay,
Correct.
thank you. Okay, I'll
Welcome.
make a motion to approve the plan review and inspection fee schedule dated 12/7/21 as presented, and to approve the cost recovery fee schedule as presented dated 12/20/21.
I have a second, please.
I'll second. Ms. Aaron.
Thank you. I have a motion by Pullen and a second by Miller. Is there any discussion? Could I have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, ma'am. Pullen,
Yes,
Miller,
Yes.
Aldrich,
Yes,
Beckman,
Yes.
Fox,
Yes,
and Verplank.
Yes.
Passes 6-0, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Moving on to the schedule of meetings for 2022. This is just a housekeeping effort. We need to publish these meetings every year and then follow that meeting, those meeting dates. So can I have a motion to approve the schedule of meetings?
this is Aldrich. I motion to approve the Saugatuck Township Fire District Fire Administrative Board schedule of meetings for 2022 as presented.
I second the motion.
Okay, I have a motion by Aldrich and a second by Beckman. Is there any discussion? Can we have, hearing none, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, ma'am. Aldrich,
Yes,
Beckman,
Yes.
Fox,
yes,
Verplank,
Yes.
Pullen,
yes,
and Miller.
Yes.
Passes 6-0, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Moving on to special events, safety. Greg, do you want to take this one?
Yes, ma'am. Certainly worthy of discussion. We have been having some meetings regarding special events, specifically some of the parade planning we want to improve. We want to have a more robust parade route. We are working with the city of Saugatuck that predominantly has the parades. Douglas has the big one in Halloween. So we want to improve this. And we are going to work with DPW and Saugatuck City Administration and our law enforcement to try to craft a better plan and one that has access control points that are very robust. So we had our first meeting, a formal meeting, more or less, and we have another one January 18th. So we certainly are all aware, probably are all aware of what happened in Wisconsin. And you'll see this pretty much from coast to coast, that unfortunately, the way things are going, we have to provide blocking. And that involves manpower, resources, who's going to do what, when, and where. How are you going to keep the costs down? These are things that we are working on. I crafted, I think, about a 16-page talking point document for Saugatuck City. They were very receptive. So that's where we're at. This is a real important thing. You know, you may want to have several fire board members come up with a committee, establish a committee for special event safety. So, any questions on this?
Chief,
Go ahead, Dan.
Yes, sir.
I agree with you. And you and I have talked offline, but the risk involved is something that, you know, when I was growing up, maybe when all of us were growing up, none of us would have ever conceived of such a possibility, of such a thing ever even remotely possible. And unfortunately, that's no longer the case. And so I want to endorse the effort to get our arms around this, but I also want to see if one of the outputs of whatever effort, whether it's a study group or whatever, is the fire district standing up with its specific requirements related to this area. In other words, not unlike you know, when any one of the jurisdictions, planning commissions or whatever, approves a site plan, they're always approved upon conditions, the most important of which is the condition that the fire department approve that plan. So it's not approved until it's approved by the fire department inspectors. I think the same should be true in the case of these parade permits, that the standards for that approval should be crystal clear. And my worry is that with so many, you know, on one hand, you've got jurisdiction, you've got law enforcement, you've got the fire district, you've got who all else, I don't know, maybe the school if it's a homecoming parade or whatnot, that having so many hands involved as they need to be, it's too easy for the focus to be lost, and most importantly, in my mind, the responsibility to be lost. And just like in the situation with water supply to new developments or whatever, you know, it can be tempting sometimes to kick the can down the road and say, well, nothing will probably ever happen, blah, blah, blah. But we know, and that's why the district has stood tall on this, the fire chief has stood tall on this, that the risk is such that when something happens, and it'll inevitably, something's going to happen, all fingers are going to start looking for places to point. And with the district's objective of community risk reduction, or overall objective for the district, to not have a very codified plan and procedure for dealing with parades, routing of the parades, protection of participants in the parades, resourcing for such things, that gets looked at for every single parade. I think we're in an exposed position from a liability standpoint and from a public relations standpoint. You know, Saugatuck rightly champions and touts how many people, you know, COVID and whatnot, how many tourists have grown, how the population of tourists has grown. You know, articles in the Wall Street Journal or New York Times, wherever the hell it is, Tribune in Chicago. All of that's looked at through the mind of somebody crazy enough to do what happened in Waukesha, simply elevates us on their list of maybe I ought to go there and cause trouble. So I don't know, a long way around, but out of all of that, I think the district, independent, I mean, happy to have consultation with the police, the jurisdictions, whomever, but independent of that, we need to create our policy on what's required for the district to approve the parade. In other words, the jurisdiction wants to go forward without the district approval, that's their business. They can handle the press contact when something goes wrong, but we need to be crystal clear. I think in a call, I mean, I thought a little bit about this. In a call, Jane mentioned the potential use of the school buses that are during virtually every single parade are all parked in a line over in the parking lot next to Farmhouse Deli. Those buses are perfect blocking vehicles. They're twice as long as a city dump truck, a DPW truck. And there's a lot of them. So you could, and they can be moved easily. And one person can move one, go back and get another one, go back and get another one, which helps on resources. Anyway, long way around. Sorry to be so long-winded, but I think it's important. I think we need a clear policy. I think we do need a study group, which I think should include a board member too. I'd be happy to be on it. Don't need to be, happy to be on it. And staff personnel as well, 1 or 2 people. A big number makes things complicated. But I think we should, serve as sort of a weird assistant to you guys in putting forward the parameters of what the fire district says is going to need to be done and needed to be done in the future. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Well,
Dan.
I agree, and I would be glad to serve on that committee as well to set up some parade protocols from the fire department. I think, Greg, you would be great on that committee, and maybe Mike Betts, who is the coordinator of volunteers, or not really volunteers anymore,
It's our
coordinator of
special event
personnel.
coordinator.
So we can discuss that. We don't want to make the committee too large because then you don't get things done. So why don't we discuss that, Greg, who we'd like to be on that committee?
Will do.
All right, moving on. The water usage agreement.
Primarily a housekeeping move. We wanted to have an agreement in place that allows us to go on their property, draw the water, and it's really protect them if we run into a gate or we collapse their seawall. We wanted to protect them. Essentially, what this agreement does is memorialize the agreement between the property owners and the fire district. That's essentially what this water use agreement does. Recommend the board approve this agreement, and legal has already reviewed it and helped me draft it. So you have it before you.
Okay, could I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt the access and water draw license agreement as proposed between the Saugatuck Township Fire District and the owners of the parcel at 3234 Silver Acres Drive, and to authorize the fire board chairperson to execute the agreement.
Have a second, please?
I'll second.
Support,
Who seconded it?
Aldrich.
Aldrich. Okay, I have a motion by Fox and a second by Aldrich. Is there a discussion? Okay, hearing no discussion, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Fox,
Yes.
Aldrich,
Yes.
Beckman,
Yes,
Verplank,
Yes.
Cullen,
Yes,
and Miller.
Yes,
Passes 6-0, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Moving on to item E, in-person meetings. Kind of think this all depends on whether COVID gets better, worse.
I put it on there, Madam Chair, if I may, that currently, as I understand it, and we're still doing a little further research, the emergency or the order that allows the local jurisdictions to adopt an emergency order that we've been allowed to do Zoom under expires December 31st. So unless the legislature, as I understand it, extends that order or changes the OMA to continue that, I believe we have no choice but to go back to in-person for the January meeting. So we'll keep you posted as we know more, but I think we tentatively should probably target that direction.
Okay,
As silly as it is with the cases going through the roof, but that's where we're at legally.
Yeah, so keep us posted and you'll see on your next packet, whether it's in person or a Zoom meeting. Okay, we have some correspondence, so thank you from Senator Eric Nesbitt for cancer presumption letter of support. So thank you, Mr. Nesbitt. Okay, I will open the meeting for public comment once again. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes and use the raise hand button to participate.
Madam Chair, this is Garnet Lewis.
Yes.
Hi, I wanted to thank you all for your work this year, and I really appreciate the chief working with Ryan, the manager, to come up with a plan, a safety plan around parades. I wanted to follow up real quick on what Chris Mannels was talking about with the Open Meetings Act expiring. That is indeed the case, but there is a bill that has come in front of the Senate just last week to expand that fully through all of next year. So I will keep you all apprised. I'll send that info on to the chief if I hear anything, or Chris. That's it.
Okay, thank you. I don't think you meant the Open Meetings Act. I think you meant the public meetings.
Yeah, the virtual meetings.
I think the open meetings is in place. So, all right. Are there any Fire Board comments, Dan?
I'd only like to echo compliments to Peter, not just on the superb audit performance, but on his everyday performance, which is truly commendable. And as we all know, his function done poorly, executed poorly, makes all of our lives something closer, far closer to a nightmare. So thank you, Peter, very much.
Okay, moving on. Aaron.
Echo the compliments to Peter, and then nothing else from me.
Okay, thank you, Stacy.
Same here. Thank you, Peter. And I'm really glad you're looking at the parade situation because I'm in every parade pretty much. And it crossed my mind. I'm not going to lie at Christmas, I just thought, you could see how tragic that would be, the Christmas parade. So thank you for looking at it. It's a good idea to be prepared.
Okay. Beckman.
Nothing from me except everyone have a safe and happy holiday.
And I think that's it, isn't it?
You forgot me.
Oh, Pullen, I'm sorry.
Nothing really, except to tell Peter, thank you for doing such a great job. And Merry Christmas to everyone.
Okay, I would also like to wish everybody happy holidays and thank Peter from the bottom of my heart. He makes everybody else's job a whole lot easier. I don't know what we'd do without him. So with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll support.
I have a motion by Pullen and support by Beckman. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
You got it. 4:48 p.m. All right. Pullen,
Yes.
Beckman,
Yes.
excuse me, Aldrich,
Yes.
Backus,
Yes.
Rippling,
Yes.
and Miller.
Yes.
Passes 6-0, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. See you next year, folks.
Okay.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas,
Thank you.
everyone.
Christmas,
Thank
everybody.
you. Thank you all.